Hi everybody, welcome. I just wanted to say, please feel free, have your camera on or not, whatever is useful to you. As I'm going through this, through the slides, the one thing to know is I can't see you as if you're waving. So if you want to participate, really the easiest way is in the chat. I'm also happy to pause, have conversation, let people unmute, but you just have to let me know through the chat because otherwise I can't see you. So just to let you know what we're here for, we're going to be talking about thriving through the holidays, but let me just be honest with you. Largely what this presentation is going to be is the presentation that I've been doing quite a lot lately, which is on burnout and resilience. I realized at one point, I think I'm doing it like 8 times just this month. And I thought, wow, this is something a lot of people really need help with right now. So let me just open it up and see who else could benefit from this kind of conversation. So to give you a sense of the span of what we're going to be talking about, I'm going to start off doing a little bit of just norm setting and let's be realistic about how rough things have been this year. I don't want anybody to feel like there's something wrong with them if they're feeling burned out right now. So we're going to first just acknowledge that it's been a pretty rough year and talk a little bit about that. In part, I do this because I just want people not to feel alone, and because I want us also to recognize that other people are going through this, and maybe it helps us to have a little bit more patience and grace for the people around us too. So the first thing is going to be that piece, just acknowledgement of where we are and what's been going on. Then I'm going to share some advice on how do you manage stress in the moment. And that can be holiday stress, it can be work stress, it can be family stress, sometimes, a combination of those. But we'll talk about just some strategies for managing stress. And then we're going to talk about some ways to protect ourselves from burnout. So we'll go through just a few ideas for a daily practice to protect ourselves. And then finally, longer term strategies to protect ourselves. After that, I'm going to talk about something new that I'm starting next year that I'd love to see if you'd be up for joining me on. So I'll talk about that. And then finally, like this will be your bonus for staying through to the end. I'm going to share with you my 2 very best tips for getting through holiday drama unscathed. Okay, these are hard-won tips, my friends. These are things that I have developed over years. So that'll be the last thing that I do. Again, please feel free to chime in on the chat at any point. One of the things that I want everybody to understand is that while this topic of burnout, compassion fatigue, stress, while this might be sort of particularly resonant in the holidays or even an evergreen topic, something that we could have talked about 5 years ago, I do want to acknowledge that it's been a particularly difficult year. We are still dealing with the fallout of COVID, and I think that people are sometimes kind of acting like, oh, it's returned to normal, everything is fine. But the reality is that we are still very much in the throes of it, and numbers are actually ticking up a little bit. And I feel like in some ways, by not acknowledging the difficulty of that, by acting like, oh, we'll all just go to holiday parties, we'll all be back in the office and have these parties, I think we are overlooking how hard and scary this has been and continues to be. And also the tremendous losses that so many of us have suffered, whether it's loss of a person that you care about, somebody who has passed away, or loss of the kind of normal way of life that you had wanted, getting to see friends and family on a regular basis. I have one friend who said she went a full year without a hug. Really, really difficult. And I think there is this sense of, well, if you didn't get really sick, that COVID didn't take a toll on you. But I don't think that's true. I think it's important to acknowledge that. But that's not the only thing we've been dealing with here in 2022. We have the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Yeah, thanks, Kathleen, for mentioning that. Yeah. Oh, gosh, Brooke, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about that. Yeah, so the Russian invasion of Ukraine has had tremendous ripple effects all over the world. The shooting in Buffalo at the Tops Marketplace. We had the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. We had the Uvalde shooting. And, wildfires, environmental disasters, hurricanes, on and on and on. We have just, I feel like, experienced kind of hit after hit. And one of the things that I want us to recognize is these things are not just happening in the world, they are actually landing on us, right? So right now, for the first time ever, 41% of adults have symptoms of anxiety or depression. It's the highest number ever, and 13% higher than a year ago, which is sort of surprising, I think, because I feel like all the way through 2020, 2021, we were thinking we just have to get to the vaccine. Let's just make it through to the vaccine, and then everything will be better, we'll be happier, everybody will be able to see one another again, and that's going to make such a difference. But the reality is that we are, in a lot of cases, worse off now than we were a year ago. Does this surprise you? I would just love to see in the chat, is this a number that surprises you, to hear that anxiety and depression has gone up in the last year? So you see there in the second bullet point some of the things that people are experiencing stress and anxiety about. But I would also love to see if there are other statistics in here that surprise you. Yeah, Bernardo says this isn't surprising. Yeah, Kathleen, thank you for sharing that. More stress and anxiety now. Like, why do we think that is? Why is it harder now than it was before? Yeah, Jillian is saying the same thing. Anxiety has increased. I think in some ways it's because we had this sense of just trying to make it through. And now, okay, we've got the vaccine and we still are experiencing challenge after challenge. Yeah, Kathleen, that's such a good point about no separation from work and home, right? I feel like those lines got completely blurred when we were all under quarantine, and that has just continued. Yeah. Oh, and Jana, that's really well put, that we've been so hypervigilant for so long that now all of the emotion is more intense. That's such a great way of putting it. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And Jana, thank you for pointing out that there are also long-term neurological consequences of COVID that we are barely figuring out. We don't even know necessarily what all that is going to be. Yeah, and Jennifer, the ability to cope has definitely gone down. Yeah, I feel like we're just so frayed, right? We've been dealing with so much. And the other statistic there I just want to highlight is that 18% of US workers feeling stressed, or I'm sorry, feeling angry in their jobs every day. Isn't that awful to think about that anger every single day? Is that something you're seeing? I did a training earlier this year for people who investigate complaints of harassment and bias. And they said that the level of death threats that they've received and also threats of self-harm that they've received have been exponentially higher. Like, one woman said she's been doing the job for 20 years, had never received a death threat, but in the previous 6 months, she had received 3. So, I think that there is this level of anger all the time. I'm seeing it just, out at the grocery store and traffic all around me. And I'm imagining some of you are as well. And I just want to share with you some of yeah, Kathleen, the way people drive, for sure. I want to share with you some of the things that I am hearing from people. One woman came up to me after I did a talk on burnout, and she said, I really thought I was fine. She's an Asian American woman, and we were talking, it was not too long after the murders in Atlanta that were targeting the Asian American community. And she said, I've been reading the news, I knew what was going on, but I really thought I was fine. And then I was on a call with my team and I just started screaming at them. She said, I've never yelled at work in my life. And she was stunned because it really seemed to come out of nowhere. But I think that's what's happening. I talked with another woman who was saying, she said, oh no, I don't think any of the stress affects me. I have a very stressful job, but I can handle anything there. She goes, what's funny though, is I can be sitting at home on the weekend and watching TV and a Hallmark commercial comes on and I just burst into tears. And I thought, yeah, it is having an effect, right? It's having an effect. So I'm curious, are any of these resonating with you? Are you starting to see some of these effects, unhappiness at work, physical pain, that shorter temper? Those are all symptoms of long-term stress and burnout. Sleeplessness. Yeah, thank you, Amber. I'm going to go through a few more of them on this next slide. And part of why I want to talk about this is because I think these are hard to It's hard to recognize when it's happening. It's like these things sneak up on us. In the way that that woman said, I really thought I was fine. I thought everything was going well for me. And then all of a sudden I was screaming. So just take a look. And I would love for you to just jot down on a piece of paper or on your phone, just if any of these resonate, if you think, oh yeah, that sounds like me. And when you've done that, if you can type in the chat done, just so I know you've had a chance to take a look at these and see if some of them resonate with you. Just to flesh some of these out a little bit, hypervigilance is that sense of if I let down my guard for a minute, everything's going to fall apart. Right. Rigid thinking is, have you ever seen that where you're trying to encourage somebody to look on, look at, there might be another option, right? And they think, no, there's no other option. This is the only way it can happen. That is rigid thinking, right? That's something I do a lot. Also helplessness or apathy. Those are common burnout symptoms. That's like, you can read about the most horrible thing and you just can't even muster the energy to care, right? Just completely apathetic. Oh gosh, yeah. Some people saying almost all of these. Yeah, interesting. Thank you all. So just hold on to that, okay? Just don't forget about that. We're going to talk about it in a little bit. All right, so we're going to talk for a second now about managing stress. And this quote I find so perfect because it's true. It's often not the huge things that bother us. It's the day-to-day things that really start to wear us down. And for that, my friends, I have to talk about Lego. So I live with some real Lego fanatics, people who love Lego, and this is what my basement looks like, Lego everywhere. And I walk into that room and I start to get short of breath. Like that Lego chaos, it just really, really causes me stress on a day-to-day basis. The thing is, that's unique to me. Probably a lot of you look at this and you think, oh boy, Lego, how fun is that? But for me, this is a huge source of stress. And that's the thing. We have to figure out what is the thing that is causing us stress. Thank you, Lisa. Not alone. Good. I love it. Thank you, Anna. So, maybe for you, and in particular, this happens, I think, over the holidays. We get this vision of this is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to bake cookies or, attend holiday parties, or we're supposed to, put lights up all over the house or send out cards or a million different things that we're supposed to do because that's part of the magic of the season and making it all great. One of the things is we may not enjoy those things, or at least some of them might not be all that great for us. Maybe we hate baking. Maybe we don't care if the house has lights on it, or maybe holiday cards just feel kind of annoying to us. Think about what are the things that are actually giving you, joy, happiness this season and what's not, and just let go of the things that don't. There are a lot of things we can just drop as soon as we realize this is not something that's bringing me joy. So just let it go. Do the Marie Kondo thing. Is it bringing you joy? No, let go of it. Do not allow that pressure to creep in and force you into doing things that you don't enjoy. Some of those things might be things that you can't get rid of, but maybe you can manage and kind of minimize a little bit. Maybe, for instance, I should get some more bins and really talk to the family about managing the Lego chaos a little bit better. I remember talking with one woman and she said, now that we're talking about it, I realized that for me, it's the shoes by the front door. She said, every day when I walk in, the first thing I see is multiple pairs of my husband's shoes strewn all over the doorway. And it means every time I walk into the house, I just get this like clenched feeling. And so she talked to her husband and she said, I know this doesn't seem like a big deal to you, but it really bothers me. So could you manage that a little better? And he said, I'm really sorry. I had no idea. I haven't been thoughtful about it. You're right. And now he lines up his shoes or just puts them in the closet. So think about whether there are things that you can either get off your shoulders entirely or at least minimize. Okay. So I hope you are writing down right now. Again, just write down a thing or two, like your little annoyances. Oh, and please share them because it'll make me feel better about the Lego thing. I'd love to hear what are your like little tiny daily petty annoyances. And hopefully you can come up with some ways of getting rid of them, getting them off your shoulders. I would also in particular love to hear about holiday ones that bother you. One of the things for me is Christmas dinner. I hate cooking Christmas dinner. And so finally I was like, you know what? I'm sure that the grocery store, like Whole Foods, probably makes a phenomenal Christmas dinner. And maybe the Christmas present that our family and I, we can give our family this year is having a catered dinner rather than me cooking it, right? Wouldn't that be great? Honestly, I don't care. It could be Chipotle. I just don't want to cook. Yeah. Oh, I love these. So, socks. Yuck. Clothes on the floor. I know I have that too. It drives me bananas. Clutter on the counters. Yeah, you order Chinese. That's what I should do, Claire. Just order Chinese. Why not? I love Chinese food. Yeah, oh, Jillian, that toddler preschooler stuff, it really does. It's like it almost mushrooms, right? Text messages in general, interesting. Yeah, that's great. Exactly. Now you know it. Just turn them off, right? Everywhere your tween goes, it looks like the room exploded. I love that, Amber. And Jana, yes, why do the kids need so many cups? I think it's because they don't clean them themselves. Yeah, the gift wrapping, Leslie. Thank you for mentioning that. It's also for me, like I feel like I have gifts tucked in every little nook and cranny in the house. And so I open my closet and it's like I can't even, get to my shoes. Yeah, clutter. Exactly. Thank you. Great ideas. Okay. So some of these we can either just get rid of or at least, manage, even with just like an hour of devoted attention or a frank conversation, we might be able to manage some of these. But I also want to acknowledge there are some things we're not going to be able to manage. There are going to be stressors that come into our life that we can't get rid of. I mean, maybe it's job related, maybe it's a family situation that is really difficult. There can be challenges that we are not going to be able to just get rid of. So I just want to give you a few tips for how to manage those. And the first one is going to be breathe. Unsurprisingly, a deep, slow breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. It increases your brain function. It calms your nervous system. In fact, we're gonna practice it right now. So what we're gonna do is 4-7-8 breathing. We're gonna do it 3 times in a row. And the way it works is inhale for 4, hold for 7, and exhale for 8. Okay, so ready? Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, last 1. Inhale, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Feel better? I will tell you, often the first time I do it, I can't get all the way to 8, or I'm like kind of gasping and feeling a little like lightheaded. But usually if I do it at least 3 times, I can get there. And my friends, I use this all the time, at least every day, sitting in traffic, picking up a phone on a conversation I know is going to be difficult, opening my inbox. 4-7-8 breathing. Just hold on to that. It's a great thing to have in your back pocket. I'd also love to hear if any of you have breathing techniques that you like. Drop them in the chat, share them. Okay, the next one is name your feeling. It is very common when we start to feel an emotional response, that heart rate increasing, getting a little angry or frustrated. It's very common to just try to squash those feelings. Like, oh, I'm not going to feel this feeling right now. Maybe we're in a work situation or talking to our kid. We're not allowed to have feelings in this moment, right? We have to be calm and in control. That squashing down of our feelings can really have a long-term effect on our mental and physical health, and it won't be invisible to the person that you're speaking to. So it's a good idea instead to do the opposite, which is lean into your feeling, name it, just name your feeling. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling sad right now. I'm feeling jealous. I'm feeling, whatever it is, just put a name to your feeling. There are studies that show that just naming your feeling can help you feel more in control of them. Some people remember this as name it to tame it. Oh, and good. I hope you're seeing in the chat that Laura dropped in square breathing. Perfect. I love that one. Thank you. Okay, one more. Two more that I want to share. One is engaging your senses. So this is just notice the smell of coffee in the next room. Put your hand on the desk in front of you and notice, does it feel smooth or rough? If you engage one of your senses, it grounds you in the present moment and can help calm you down. And then the final one is just take a break. It's always okay to take a break. I think so often we push ourselves through difficult situations because we feel like we have to. So much better just to take a break when we need it. All right, so I would love in the chat, drop in any of these that were new to you, something that you'd like to hang on to and try, or any other great stress relief ideas that you have. I'd love to see those in the chat. And thank you again, Laura, for sharing about square breathing. In for 4, hold 4, exhale 4, hold 4. Perfect. All right, so next I want to talk about self-care as a daily practice. So burnout is one of those areas where the best defense is a good offense. We have to affirmatively protect ourselves from it. And one of the ways we can do that is by having a daily reset. So something that we do every day that is just a way for us to kind of reconnect with ourselves. It's not about, being productive or, helping somebody else, or just for you. Is there something you can do just for you? And we're going to share a few ideas for that. Oh, and I hope you all are seeing these great comments in the chat. Thank you so much, Tina and Janet and Jennifer, great ideas. So before we get to some of the ideas for self-care, I just want you to read this little excerpt. And when you are finished reading it, write done in the chat so I know you're done. Thanks, everybody. So I first read this excerpt right after Russia invaded Ukraine, and I thought that's what she had written it in response to. I later learned that she wrote it about a year earlier during the wildfires in Australia. She's an Australian. I have found that every time I have read it since, it feels like it could have been written that day. And I think that's kind of the point, right? We often are in this situation where we think, there's so much going on, I can't possibly prioritize myself right now. And that can be, fires at work. It can be maybe a really difficult thing happening in your friend circle or with a family member. Maybe it's the things happening in the world. Maybe it's the literal fires, as it was for this poet. The reality is, though, that if we are waiting for everything to calm down in order to prioritize ourselves, we're never going to get there. And by the way, we are never going to be as useful for all of those fires around us if we haven't prioritized ourselves. We have to make time for ourselves in the midst of all of the disasters around us. This poet went on, I'm going to read just a little bit more of the poem. She said, she was quoting Keats, and she said, I must choose between despair and energy. I choose the latter. What does it look like to state in the midst of smoke? I choose energy. For starters, I choose to finish washing my face. Then I choose to look, not away, but toward. I choose to trust, first in goodness, then in people I know, then in people I'll never meet, always in myself. I love this because it's not saying I'm going to pretend that this isn't happening. I know it's happening, but I also know that I have to finish washing my face. I have to feed myself first before I can then turn. I can look toward, right? I can see what is going on. And then I will trust in others around me, and I will always trust in myself to be able to meet this moment. So I wanted to share this with you in part because I know that for some of us, because of our backgrounds, our life experiences, habit, we think that self-care is selfish, that If we make time for ourselves, we are doing it at the expense of somebody else who needs us more. But the reality is, we are never as good for that other person who needs us if we aren't taking care of ourselves first. So I hope this helps open up your willingness to consider a daily reset. I'm going to share just a few ideas for things that could be a daily reset on the next few slides. You don't have to do all of them. You shouldn't do all of them. The point here is not to overcommit and take more on your shoulders. It's, can you find one thing, one little space that you can carve out for yourself in the midst of a busy day that is just about feeding your own energy? So let's talk about a few ideas. Oh gosh, Leslie, beautifully put in the chat. I hope you guys are seeing that. All right, so first, meditation. Any of you already have a practice involving meditation or prayer, mindfulness every day? I do just 5 minutes of meditation. To be clear, sometimes it's like 1 or 2 minutes of meditation every day, but I find it really, really helpful for me. And I mean, certainly there's a lot of research on this. So the Mayo Clinic says emotional benefits of meditation can include gaining a new perspective on stressful situations, stress management, self-awareness, reducing negative emotions, increasing imagination, creativity, patience. It helps with anxiety, depression, high blood pressure, headaches, and on and on and on. If you are, and I love that, Bernardo, consistently inconsistent. Yeah, it looks like some of you are on it. Oh my gosh, Jonna, 715 days. Holy mackerel, that's amazing. Yeah, and Jillian, I totally get that. And it doesn't have to be the thing that you choose, okay? But I'm just going to give you a few maybe entry points if you are interested in exploring it. One, there's great apps out there. Jonna, you know, if you want to share in the chat how it is that you do your meditation every day, I'd love to see it. I do Insight Timer. I like that one. I do it every morning. When I first, an Insight Timer is just an app. It's like Calm is another one. It's just a free app and they have a million different meditations. So if you like music or, you know, ocean sounds or guided meditation, there's lots of different ways to do it. Oh, Jonna, you're using that one too. Good. So, but I will tell you, when I first started meditating, I just did a really simple one, which was you breathe in a color that you associate with calm. For me, that was blue, and breathe out a color associated with stress. And for me, that was gray. So I'd breathe in blue, breathe out gray, and I would just do it for like 10 breaths. That was just my way of getting started. So think about that. Prayer is also a great option if that's something that speaks to you. It can be sometimes a little easier for people. It's speaking, you know, to the higher power can be something that is really a nice way maybe to end the day or begin the day. Mindfulness, I just want to differentiate from meditation because often they get kind of lumped together. Mindfulness is grounding yourself in the present moment. So often we are, you know, ruminating about something that happened in the past or worrying about what might happen in the future. Mindfulness is like, just where am I right now? So that thing I just talked about with engaging your senses, noticing the smell of coffee from the next room or counting out 3 blue things around you, that is a mindfulness technique. So that might be a good option for you. Although for some people, it sounds like maybe Jillian, meditation is not going to get you there. My sister-in-law says my meditation is kickboxing. And I think that's totally fair. Like whatever it is that is actually going to work for you. If you're just sitting there feeling like you're supposed to be meditating and you can't stop your mind from racing and you feel really, really stressed afterward, that's not your thing. So think about exercise. Don't commit to, I'm going to run a marathon this year if you're not already running really long distances. This is the point of this is not like weight loss or something like that. The point of this is mental health. So what is an exercise that you can commit to for mental health? So like, I like yoga, you know, I do a little bit of stretching in the morning. Maybe for you, it's walking the dog after dinner or playing basketball with, you know, your kid. Just what is it that is something easy that you could commit to for a little period of time every day. And then the final one I want to talk about is art. Are any of you artists? You know, whether it's music, painting, drawing, whatever it is, if you have some form of art in your life, that can be a really, really wonderful way to feed yourself. Again, you want to make sure that you're not doing it because like under a sense of pressure, like, oh, I have to produce. It should be just for you. So, you know, just a little sketchbook that only you see. for instance. Even if you are not an artist, though, there are lots of great ways to engage with art of others, like listening to music. One of my favorite things to do is, as I'm making dinner, I have a great playlist of all 90s hip hop music, and I dance around the kitchen. I love it. It's wonderful. And I also follow a lot of artists on Instagram, so that can be a nice way of engaging with art. Yeah, I love that. Thank you, Jana and Janet. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. So just think about that. And again, I would like if you can just jot down something that you can commit to doing every day just for yourself. It could be from one of these ideas or something else. Maybe it's something you already do. And again, put in the chat done once you've got it. Looks like we've got great ideas. Janet, I love that idea about puzzles. And Laura, garden is so perfect because it gets you outside, breathing fresh air, and it's very tangible. Good. Glad, Jennifer and Janet. I love that people are finding things that they want to commit to. So think about that. And then I want to talk next a little bit about longer term commitments to self-care. There can be bigger life shifts that we might need to do. So let's talk about some of those. First and foremost, boundary setting. It can be really, really difficult, particularly when we're talking about family things, which we often are around the holidays. I will give you some ideas at the very end on like my favorite tips for boundary setting around family drama. I'll share at the end, but just give some thought to what it is that you are allowing to take your energy and what you're not. I spoke with this guy, Hugh McCutcheon. I had a short-lived podcast called The Empathetic Workplace, and I would interview different leaders, empathetic leaders, and one of them was Hugh McCutcheon, who's a basketball coach. And I said to him, how do you handle bad behavior among your players? And he said, well, I mean, to be honest, one of the things about behavior is you get what you tolerate. And I thought, oh, right. That we are teaching people all the time what is acceptable to us and what isn't. And when we are allowing behavior we don't like and are just complaining to other people or, kind of grumbling about it to ourselves or just swallowing that anger, we are allowing that behavior to continue. So one of the things we have to think about is why are we allowing that? And maybe are we willing to take some steps to stop it? For instance, maybe we are saying, I'm not going to have this conversation right now. Or maybe I'm going to put do not disturb on my phone for a couple of hours and just doodle, do those puzzles, right? Think about what are the boundaries you need to protect your energy. We also have to get better at reaching out to others. So sharing the burden. Can you right now name 5 people that you could call when you're having a hard day? Just think about it for a second. And again, just write done in the chat when you've got your 5. So think about, do you have 5? Love that, Bernardo. No is a complete sentence. Perfect. Good. All right, excellent. So I'm glad to see some of you are getting your 5. If you are having trouble thinking of 5, journals can count, pets can count, and it's also worthwhile to think about developing those. That's a great, resolution for the new year is developing more friendships and actually leaning on them more. Remember to call them when you're having that hard day. And then finally, I want to talk about knowing your warning signs. And by that, I mean the signs that you are beginning to experience burnout. So that can be things like we talked about before, that insomnia, headaches, sore throat, shorter tempers, right? The thing is about burnout is it sometimes comes in with a roar, but usually it comes in first with a whisper. So, before you're at the point where you're shouting at your team on a staff call, there's usually little signs earlier than that. So maybe it's that persistent headache. Maybe it's you're getting more sarcastic than you usually are. Start to pay attention to those warning signs. And when you see them, that's the time to lean on all those other things we were talking about, right? Like reach out to a friend, re-engage with your self-care routine, set better boundaries, all of those things. Oh, another great quote there in the chat from Molly. The only explanation you owe is to the person you see in the mirror. Perfect. Love that on boundary setting. So try right now again to think through a couple of those warning signs that are the case for you. And thank you, Laura, for mentioning that sometimes what we need to do is reach out to professional support. So maybe check in with your doctor, maybe check in with a therapist. There are a lot of things that we're carrying, and maybe there are shifts we can make to be a little bit happier in our lives. And it's going to make a big difference in the long term if we can make those steps sooner. All right, so in the vein of steps that might be helpful, I'm doing something new. We'll see if people are interested in joining me. So one of the things that I have seen again and again, like I'll do a training for people and I'll say, like, does everybody have their daily reset and can we commit to it? And what'll happen is everybody will be so gung-ho about it. And I hope you are too, right? Like, this is my self-care. This is what I'm going to commit to doing every day. And then what happens is I go a few months later to check in and they say, the what? What did I can't really remember what I committed to. And I think that's normal, right? We all get busy. I think we all have big plans for prioritizing ourselves, but when it comes down time to actually doing it, life gets in the way. The other thing that I've been hearing a lot from people is, like that issue of, can you name 5 people? There are some issues that there's not really anybody you can talk to. If you are the head of your team, it's not really appropriate for you to be venting to one of your team members about the behavior of another team member, right? Or to be complaining to your staff about what your supervisor is asking of you. That's not going to be super appropriate. The same thing can happen in the family. I mean, if you're not going to complain to one kid about what his brother is doing. So I just wanted to mention that if you are interested, I'm going to be starting a group in January where what we'll do is get together once a week. It'll be Fridays at noon Eastern time, but recorded just like this one is. We'll do conversations about managing stress, resilience. We will all support each other through this. And in addition to those weekly Zooms, we'll do text messages 3 times a week, just little reminders like on some of the things that we're talking about. And we'll have a private Facebook group. So if there's things that come up during the week that you want to talk out with people, there's a place to go with those. So I'm just getting it started. I haven't announced it anywhere except to all of you right here. If you want to learn more about it, the website is blackbird-dc.com/thriving. What I'm calling it is burnout free in 23, thriving in the new year. So if you are interested, that QR code will take you to the website. If you have any questions, just reach out to me. You have my email address, reach out at any point. The cost is $297 a month or $850 if you do it one time. But right now, and just for you all, and just for the next couple of days, like through Sunday, I'm going to do it as $197 a month. Now, this is not advertised on the website, but if you go through and click, that's the price you'll get. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I am going to stop the Zoom now and share with you my top 2 tips for managing holiday drama. Okay, are you all ready? Okay, so stopping the share. Hi, everybody. Good to see you all. Hello there. Okay, so top 2 tips for managing holiday drama. So my first tip, and what I'm doing with this, what I'm sharing are tips that are helpful when you are going to be in a situation this holiday season where you are going to have to navigate some drama. This is not the, oh yeah, I can share the QR code, or here, I'll just put the link in the chat. I'll share it with everybody. So this is for the drama that maybe is not to the point of like, this is actually something that I need to change, like I need to get this person out of my life, but instead is more the like, oh my gosh, this is just something I'm dreading. I know that this person is going to say ridiculous things, and I'm going to have to just sit there and take it because I don't want to create, some huge fight. So here's my advice for that situation. So what I advise is come up with a way that you are actually looking forward to the thing you are dreading. And so here's like one example. If you have a family member who you know is going to say ridiculous things, right? Maybe it's, I don't know, they say ridiculous political things or whatever it is. There's some ridiculous things that you know they're going to share. One thing could be you could say, I'm going to try to get out of this meal 3 really funny anecdotes about the absurd things this person said. Right. And so when they say the absurd thing, instead of being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that, you think, yes, I got one. Awesome. I will tell you, this worked so well for me. I was gleeful going into this dinner. So that's my first piece of advice is look for some way to make the thing you are dreading into something that you are looking forward to. Think of it as like a bingo, maybe would be another way to do it. Okay, and then my second one, and this is for when you are in a conversation with somebody and they say something really inappropriate or ask you something really inappropriate. Okay, so you're already in the conversation and they have now said something, and your impulse is to just, yell at them, to respond in kind, right? Instead, here's what I want you to do, and you can practice in the mirror. Here's the face you make. Okay, so it is, you're not saying a word. You are just giving them that look of confusion. Like, why on earth would you say this? And what I have found in my experience, here's what happens. Thanks, Patty. Here's what happens is they immediately start to backpedal. They get very, very defensive, because what your face is saying is, why on earth would you say that absurd thing? So they start to get defensive about it and start to argue about why that was an appropriate thing to say, but you're not actually saying anything. And so they're just arguing with themselves. And so they do that for a second, and then they realize that they're doing that. And then they start to backpedal from that. And you're just kind of watching them the whole time. And finally, I will just kind of change the topic and move on. And it is so much fun, my friends. So those are my 2 tips for you. You're doing that face a lot lately. Laura, I love that. This has been so much fun, you all. I hope that it has been helpful to you. I hope that you've gotten a few tips and tools to get you through the holidays and on. I just want to thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you so much. I know that it's a really busy time of year, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend an hour of it with me. I hope that you have a wonderful holiday season and a really happy new year. Take care.